City Council meeting. The meeting is called to order, and I'll ask the city clerk to call the roll.
All council members are present.
Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and then remain standing for a brief moment of silence? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The city clerk posted orders of adjournment of the January 9th, 2024 meeting and the agenda of the January 23rd, 2024 meeting in accordance with state law, city council, and housing authority policy. Before we continue the meeting, I would like to invite members of the public to attend the 2024 State of the City event. Join us as we reflect on the accomplishments of the past year and share what is coming in the year ahead. The State of the City will be held on February 6, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. at the Courtyard Marriott, located at 141 Magnolia Avenue, which is just across the parking lot from City Hall. We have two presentations on today's agenda. City Manager Mitchell will introduce the presentation for the annual update from the Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. Rick Wilson, the CEO and President of the San Diego East County Regional Chamber of Commerce, is here to present sort of, a state of the city of the chamber, right? So with that, Rick, the floor is yours.
Thank you, everybody, for giving us an opportunity to just share with you things that are happening at the Chamber of Commerce in our wonderful city here. The San Diego Regional East County Chamber of Commerce is a respected voice and our advocate for improving business opportunities, public policy, and business resources throughout San Diego County. Our regional coverage, it not only does it serve here in El Cajon, but La Mesa, Lemon Grove, Rancho San Diego, Santee, Jamul, Lakeside, Ramona, you name it. We are all about East County and making sure that we're helping businesses thrive and grow. 2023 was a tough year for everyone, with inflation, residuals from the pandemic, and the ever-increasing challenge of the supply chain globally. Yet with these challenges, we've noticed all of our businesses in the business community continuing to pivot and look for new and innovative opportunities to help grow business. So I want to share a little bit in 2023 some of the things that we were able to help accomplish in the community. We saw the Veterans East County Alliance grow into a positively impactful program serving San Diego and East County. This year they had their first ever Valor event at Jamul Casino on the rooftop, and it was incredible. So we're here to serve the veterans throughout our entire community, and through that program they have been very, very successful. We serve over 3,500 businesses who sign up for weekly newsletters from us, e-blast, business workshops, and webinars. We partner with more organizations to help the entire business community. We led the way with innovation, technology, AI, and virtual reality. The San Diego Regional East County Chamber of Commerce was the first chamber in North America to have a personal robot assistant. So if you haven't been to the chamber, come on in and get greeted by our personal assistant, Temi. We continue to work with the East County areas related to homelessness, and we appreciate what the City of El Cajon is continuing to do to work on that issue, and we're happy to be a partner in that. We do partner with 4 cities in East County, as well as the County of San Diego, which covers the areas of District 2 and District 4. But we like to work with all elected officials in all areas to help the business community. We held our annual Ethics in Business program with high school students. So years ago, before I got this job, the business community was kind of reaching out saying that a lot of these kids who are coming directly into the workforce needed a little bit more guidance. And so we've worked with our surrounding school districts to host a program called Ethics in Business every year. And I know some of you who are on City Council have participated in that program with us as facilitators. So thank you very much. We hold 2 health fairs every year. So in 2023, we did the same thing, one at Grossmont Center and one at Parkway Plaza. We did hold last year, which is actually in less than a month here, it'll be our 112th annual EC Honors Gala, where we recognize incredible businesses in our community. So that's a great event to come to network, to meet people in our community, but also recognize what our businesses are doing to help our community. We held our 21st annual golf tournament, which is another cause to help support our Chamber Foundation, but also give an opportunity for businesses to get out there, have a good time, relax, but also share and network, because we have about 144 golfers that participate in that event. We held our 21st annual Women in Leadership Luncheon, and that is our largest event that we throw every year. It's well over 500 people that attend that. And that's recognizing incredible women, not only in East County, but throughout San Diego County. We hold Dialogue events. We actually have one on Thursday with Congressman Darrell Issa at the Chamber. But we try to hold as many of these as we can with our elected officials to give our community members an opportunity to come out and ask the questions that they like to ask with regards to politics. We've held over 24 ribbon cuttings in 2023, well over 15 business after-hours mixers, with the whole concept is to bring businesses together so that they can build those relationships and grow their business. In 2023, the Chamber Foundation gave out grants to youth organizations in East County. They also held fundraisers to support community programs. And as a reminder, back in 2020, when we were all at the stay-at-home order, remember in La Mesa that we had the riots that happened. And through the Chamber Foundation and the Chamber Board of Directors, we were able to raise over $250,000 to give back to businesses in La Mesa that were affected by those riots. So the Chamber Foundation continues to look for opportunities to help our community. Goals for 2024, continuing to work with community partners like the City of El Cajon. I feel like we have an incredible relationship with the City of El Cajon and continue to look at opportunities out there. Continue to partner with other chambers. We're not in competition with other chambers of commerce. We are working with as many and collaborating with as many so that our businesses can get together, like I mentioned, build those relationships and grow their business. We've definitely grown in social media, and now it's time for us to start engaging on social media. So we are looking to do that more. And so we do see also what the City of El Cajon is doing with social media, their videos, and we want to kind of fall in line with that and be more engaging with the people that are reaching out to us. Continue to seek grants and funding to help small businesses throughout East County. We are very much excited about the incubator program that is coming in 2024. So thank you to the City of El Cajon for really creating that and getting that off the ground, and super excited about that. Continue to work closely with the East County Economic Development Council. They are very vital to us in East County here, and so I'm honored to be on their board and working with them continuously to help our community. One of the things that I think is important is to continue to listen to our business community, listen to the feedback that they give so that we can share with government, we can share with regards to legislation what we're hearing from businesses in our community. As I mentioned, we are here to lift up the entire business community, so everything that we work on is kind of that rising tide lifts all ships, so that is kind of our motto. Obviously, we have about 600 members in our chamber, but we care about, in East County, there's probably 50,000 businesses. I think in the City of El Cajon, there's over 9,000 businesses alone. So we want to make sure that we are working with as many of them as possible to help lift up our entire business community. And also, sometimes if you look at our calendar, you might think that we're an event production company, but we are not. We throw as many events as we can to bring people together for the opportunity to network. And a lot of our things like mixers and whatnot, we've been able to underwrite those so that people can show up and just have a great time, have some drinks, have some food, and build that relationship. So we're very proud of that. And so to sum it up, the Chamber is here to serve. So we're here to help the business community, to work with government, to really make a difference. And I just want to take too much of your time. I just really appreciate the opportunity to share what we've got going on, and I didn't know if there was any questions from the panel.
Let me see. Any questions?
No questions. Just I'm going to add another update that you conveniently skipped over. So I used to serve with Rick. I was on the board for the Chamber of Commerce. And Rick's one of the most dynamic, incredible people I've ever worked with. And we are blessed to have Rick in East County, just right down the street, guiding our Chamber of Commerce in East County. And when our previous CEO left, there was a big void. There was a big gap, and we were the board was very nervous. And Rick, you stepped in at the helm and took it, and you established vision. And for that, you got your own recognition. The San Diego Business Journal named him CEO of the Year in 2023 for nonprofits in all of San Diego. And so his work through that has been tremendous, and I just want to say congratulations, and we appreciate you and all the work that the Chamber does and your staff as well.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
That's good.
So if I could also say that I mentioned the La Mesa riots that happened back in 2020. Mr. Phil Ortiz, who was on our board, was one of the first people to make the phone call to us, the Chamber and the Chamber Foundation, to try to get something going. So, when you think about our team, it really is everybody in our community, our board, everybody who's making a difference. So I appreciate the recognition that I got from the San Diego Business Journal, but that is because of you and everyone in our community and what we're doing. I can't do anything alone. It takes collaborations and partnership opportunities, and so I appreciate the partnership that we have with the City of El Cajon. Thank you very much. If there's no other questions, I'll give you the meeting back.
No, thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
The second presentation is for the IRC Leadership Academy. I'd like to invite Tania Rivera, Economic Empowerment Supervisor, to share with us about this. Hi, Tania.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Tania, and I have the privilege of working at the nonprofit International Rescue Committee, which is a resettlement services agency. Today, I'm joining Nurcia, who is a Resident Leadership Academy participant. And I know that she was working alongside 9 other participants of the program to put together a project for you. Since together they were able to identify different necessities in the El Cajon area. And today we're going to be doing an overview of that with hopes of having this review and hopefully approved. Okay, so I'll just continue if that's okay with you.
Yeah, please.
So just as a problem overview, something that the RLA participants identify is that some of the local parks are in need of some support and improvement as well. So basically, to enable these spaces even more for local families to be able to have recreational activities there for free. And they also identified that there is a need for more cleanliness in the area. And in addition to that, they also identify an additional transportation need, which is not directly connected to the park, but just for scheduling of the local transportation. And we're going to do an overview, as you can see in the presentation. Okay, so the first goal that the Resident Leadership Academy program participants had is to add QR codes to the El Cajon bus stations for the community to know about the bus schedule and learn about last-minute changes. I think that that will be a wonderful idea. As you know, the Metro Transit might already have a schedule set up, and people might be able to know that the day before. But if they get to the station and they're able to scan that code, they will get the latest information in case there are any changes. So that's something that they would like to propose and that we can hope that it could be implemented. Another area of need that was identified is that after surveying some community members of El Cajon, is that the Wells and the John F. Kennedy parks need some additional improvement, and that includes installing fences around the children's playground areas to increase safety. Once you have a baby, I just had a baby last year, and I'm just thinking about one day I'll be taking them to the park, right? And just thinking that how active and all this energy that they have, if these fences could be installed in the parks, as you can see just as an example in the picture from the presentation, I think that that will give peace of mind to the parents, and also it will increase the safety measures for their children as well. Another idea that the participants had was about installing shades and additional play equipment for children, for example, playground slides. We completely understand that the budget is limited and not all of this might be feasible, but we hope that some of this could be taken into consideration to make these parks a better experience for everyone in the community. Also, they were hoping to add more picnic tables with shades over them and art design. These guys said during a previous meeting that we had with the city management that they are willing to volunteer to assist in anything that is possible, and even with the paintings, if that's something that you would like to implement. And in addition to that, they would also like to see the parks more clean. For example, installing more trash cans and more dog waste trash cans as well. And sorry about this, but also to see the bathrooms a little bit more clean as well. Hopefully that could be taken into consideration. And also, we heard from the participants that there is a need for installing fitness equipment and more light in the area, especially since now it's getting dark at an earlier time. That will really engage the community to be the park until close time. Another goal that they would like to be implemented is that hopefully the city of El Cajon is able to provide free recreational activities for women to overcome stress. And some of the activities that they were talking about was like having activities to play chess, to do yoga, meditation as well. And also, I know that there are some free after school. This is not connected to the parks, more to the schools, but they really want to see free after school activities for kids like soccer. Sometimes there is some fee, and sometimes they are not able to afford that due to being low-income households. So hopefully these are initiatives that could be taken into consideration to improve the area. In terms of, as I was saying, for recreational activities, they would like to see meditation, practice chess, and outside of the park, if possible. We don't want to abuse, of that willingness that you have to support the community, but if they could be provided also like sewing classes, cooking classes, computer classes, not necessarily at the parks, obviously, but just through a community center, that will be a wonderful initiative and support for them, and to have access to these for free as well. When it comes to implementing recreational activities at the parks for children specifically, they would like to see that bigger playgrounds for kids and more sports equipment for teenagers as well. And I don't know, you would like to add anything as a participant of the program?
With permission of all of you, my English is not in the high level, and just I want to say, and I want to have attention to the Wells Park, especially the Wells Park. Most of the refugees come in the Wells Park, but there is not opportunity, like not any enough chair, tables, and I go that park every Saturday with my children. Most of the Afghan refugees, they sit in the ground, and they use carpet or some things, and they play with children in the ground. It's a little difficult because the weather is changed and be cold, and that park is not safe for children and for women. I want your attention for that parks and be good in the future. Thank you so much. I'm sorry because my English is not the high level.
You did fine.
I'm sorry about that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't know if you have any follow-up questions.
Yeah, we might. And by the way, you did fine. You did very well.
Thank you.
Thanks. Questions? Carrie.
Well, first of all, I'm impressed that you came up here and spoke to us. Never worry about your English being a little rough because, I wish I could speak a second language, so you can do something I can't do. The other thing is I also want to thank both of you for taking the time to help the community and bringing those things back to us. Well, I really like the idea of the fencing around the children's play area because I used to have 4 little boys, and you can't keep an eye on all of them because one goes this way and one goes that way. So I could see where that would be extremely helpful. So, and the thing with the shade for the playground equipment, my kids were occasionally burned a little bit from being on a hot slide, or especially if it's red, it absorbs the heat, and so anything we can do to make it more pleasant for the kids, I'm all for. So I just want to express my gratitude to you and the people you worked with to come up with these things that they're clearly very well thought out, because as a dad that used to take my kids to the park, 2-3 times a week, I can really relate to those things. So thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for you. Thank you for paying attention. Thank you so much.
Hold on. Anybody else? Graham, can you just give us a little rundown of some of the improvements we've made at Wells Park and some of the challenges we have with keeping the bathrooms clean?
Certainly, and we actually, when I met with them, we talked about some of those things that we've done. I think their concern is that we need to do more. There's more places for opportunities to sit, more opportunities for some shade. I'm pleased to announce that we are putting, over the last couple of years, we've been putting shade structures in a lot of our parks. I know one of the things that the IRC Leadership Academy really wanted to focus on was also more exercise equipment, and that's something that Mr. Carson has been pushing for in our parks as well. So I think there are some things that are happening already in the works. Some of the feedback that they gave us were really helpful as we're putting together the final touches of a recreation master plan. So this was helpful. And I think one of the big takeaways that I had personally is understanding what are some of the program needs of our newer residents in our city. And I think we're really good at programming, especially at the recreation side, things that have been true and tried, that have worked for years and years with our traditional residents. But one of the things that came out of this was clubs for women, where they can recreate together and feel more comfortable. And you heard the opportunity for a chess for women. And so there's some really cool opportunities, I think, that we have as a city to connect with our more recent immigrant community to provide a better service.
Okay, I appreciate that, Graham. Thanks.
For you. Thank you.
Well, thank you for coming, and I'm sure we'll continue talking and hopefully make the parks a better place.
Okay.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you very
Thank
much.
Thank you.
so much.
All right. That brings us up to agenda changes. Staff, do you have any?
No, sir.
Council? All right. Now we're in consent items. Consent items are routine matters enacted by one motion according to the recommendation listed below. With the concurrence of the City Council, a council member or person in attendance may request discussion of a consent item at this time. Council members, do you wish to pull any of the consent items? Staff?
No.
Angela, do you have any speaker cards for consent items?
We have no speaker cards, sir.
I'd like to make a motion then to approve the consent items. Please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
We're now at public comment. At this time, any person may address a matter within the jurisdiction of the City Council, Housing Authority, successor agency to the El Cajon Redevelopment Agency that is not on the agenda. Comments relating to items on today's agenda are to be taken at the time that the item is heard. State law prohibits discussion or action on items not on the agenda. However, City Council and Housing Authority members may briefly respond to statements or questions. And an item may be placed on a future agenda. Angela, do we have any speaker cards for public comment?
Yes, sir. We have one. Brenda Hammond. Hey, Brenda.
Hi. Hi, Graham. I mean, Mr. Mitchell. It's a joke, right? I had something really prepared to say today, but the storm changed all that. This storm we just had, I don't know how El Cajon fared, but I saw some pretty reckless stuff happening. What I did see was a lot of people freaking out. I saw these women that were freaking out because their hair was getting wet and their makeup is running and their cars were getting dirty. And you know what I didn't see? I didn't see the homeless people freaking out. I saw the homeless people relaxed. I saw them helping people that were stuck in water. I saw them helping clear the drains with the public works in all the cities. And so I'm asking that people give a little more respect for the homeless people out there. They're not all drug addicts. They're not all alcoholics. And they don't all have a mental illness. Thank you.
Thanks, Brenda. Okay, there are no written communications and no public hearings on today's agenda. We have 5 administrative reports on today's agenda. Item 6 is a homeless programs and services update, and I'll ask staff to tell us about this.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council members. It's a pleasure to be here today. My name is Yanira Pelayo. I'm the Management Analyst with the Housing Division and the Community Development Department, but you can call me Yanni for short. I will be presenting an update on the programs and services that the city is currently engaged in to address homelessness. In the last 6 months, from July to December 2023, the city has allocated a total of $2.3 million. As shown on this slide, $2.1 million came from PLHA and $185,000 came from a CDBG reallocation. The Permanent Local Housing Allocation Fund, or PLHA, comes from the $75 transaction fee that is levied on certain real estate transactions. City Council approved these allocations to various service providers back in September of 2023. With the one-time CDBG CARES Act allocations from 2020 being fully allocated and almost fully expended, PLHA is a permanent source of funding that can be used to fund these various homeless services programs throughout the city. These services include housing navigation, outreach, case management, rental assistance, rapid rehousing, and emergency shelter. Under PLHA, we can also allocate 5% that goes towards program administrative costs. Additionally, the $185,000 in CDBG funds that was reallocated is to support additional outreach support services, and this brings us to having 6 new programs in the last 6 months. This table shows the expenditures and results for all of the active programs in the city, including the ones in the previous slide, from July to December 2023. I do want to point out there is a small correction for the amount of expenditures. There are currently 14 active programs, and there has been a total of $395,502 in expenditures in the last 6 months. This is a small $2,500 difference than was presented in the staff report. Although these funds were allocated to the East County Task Force, no expenditures have been incurred at the moment. Staff does anticipate additional expenditures in the next reporting period for the programs that show $0. Actually, let me go back here for the results. So during the time covered in this table, we have a result of 1,301 individuals that were assisted. And out of that total, 69 entered into some sort of bridge housing, and 56 individuals entered into permanent housing. Now that we've covered the last 6 months, I want to move forward with the aggregate amounts for the allocations that were provided since January of 2020. In a 4-year period, the city has allocated about $6.4 million using multiple funding sources. For homeless assistance and housing programs, we have a total of about $5.8 million. We have $591,030 towards quality of life cleanup efforts, and $22,500 towards the East County Homeless Task Force. These funding sources include low and moderate income funds, CDBG, the general fund, PLHA funds, and one-time CDBG CARES Act funds. Together, these programs have provided assistance to more than 8,500 individuals since January 2020. Out of that total, more than 3,500 have been assisted with some form of bridge housing or shelter, and over 1,100 were assisted into permanent housing. As a result of the data provided today, staff recommends that City Council continue funding all of the active homeless-related programs, continue the city's financial contribution to the East County Homeless Task Force, continue to seek new funding opportunities for homeless-related programs, and continue its regional approach to address homelessness. This slide is an appreciation to all of our current program providers for their hard work and dedication in helping the homeless population here in El Cajon. And that ends my presentation today. Staff is available to answer any questions or comments that you may have, and we also have staff available from Homestar here today.
Well, thank you. Thanks for a nice presentation. Let me see if there are any questions for you. Michelle?
Hi, Yanni. Thank you for the good report. I have a couple of questions. According to your files, or according to the report here, if I saw that correctly, it was 1,301 people were helped, but only 56 people got permanent housing?
Yes, that is correct.
Why? I mean, why are the numbers so, why is there such a disparity between the two?
So
is
there,
it lack of, I'm sorry, let me continue, sorry. Is it lack of housing? Is it lack of will from the people wanting to be permanently housed? What is 1,300? I mean, that's a great number, and we've helped a lot of people. But when it comes to permanent housing, 56 people out of 1,300, where did the other, 1,250 people go?
I do know that in the quarterly reports from our service providers, some of that information is reported back to us, and there are some difficulties into placing everybody into permanent housing. If it's okay with you, I would like to bring Home Start up to maybe provide some of those reasons.
Sure.
Thank you.
Hi.
Good afternoon.
Hi.
So also the data reflects, so when we enroll into outreach, that's any kind of service, from food and water, resources, it doesn't mean they always want the permanent housing. So yes, our focus is permanent housing, but not everybody wants it. So that does answer your question. So when we enroll into our different outreach programs, it's just outreach. It's just water, food, resources, making sure that they're in our homeless management information system. So when they're ready through progressive engagement, that they're ready for permanent housing.
So only 56 people said, yeah, I'll take permanent housing out of that 1,300. Did we have permanent housing available for them if, say, 1,200 out of the 1,300 said, yes, I'll take permanent housing? Do we have enough permanent housing for them?
We do not have enough inventory in the county in general that would be affordable for them to sustain permanent housing. Through Rapid Rehousing and the new PLHA grant, we're able to provide additional rental assistance to make sure that they can have additional time to improve their income so they can sustain their housing versus just the security deposit and first month's rent. But in general, there is not enough affordable housing for everyone in the community.
Thank you on that. Yanni, another question is, we spent $500,000 in cleaning up. Mm-hmm. Is there any way that, what can we do, or what type of programs do we have available to maybe educate so we're not having to clean up after these encampments and not having to do so much cleaning up? How can we solve that? How can we bring that down? That's a lot of money to spend on cleaning up after other people.
Yes, we do have, through the police department, a hot team that goes out and provides a lot of outreach with our homeless population in El Cajon. At the moment, I do believe that that would be the way to provide that sort of information to our homeless population. I know that PD also does go out with public works staff for this quality of life team, but at the moment, those are our two programs that we have to spread the word out.
Okay, thank you.
This may be a question for Home Start. What percentage of homeless people do you think are in the database that is being used to help them?
That probably is a question for Home Start. I'll call it Karina.
So for everyone that we do encounter, we try to put them in our homeless management information system, depending. So I can say in the city, over the course of time, we probably enrolled up to 1,000 people from the city of El Cajon in our homeless management information system. If they don't check in with us or we don't see them, they do auto exit after 90 days, and then we can re-enroll them once they come back to us asking for help, or we see them on the streets and they want the help again.
Do you have a ballpark figure for me? I know this may be difficult to come up with, but for what percentage you think of homeless people? Do most of them say, no, I don't want to get into this? Or is it 50? Is it 70%?
that do not want services or the housing? Because for us, it's two different components. Because
Okay,
they'll say yes
let's-
to food and water,
Yeah.
but not necessarily the
Do
housing.
they automatically, when they get the food and water, do most of them agree to get into the database?
We try to encourage them to get into the database, but if not, we do progressive engagement, like I said before, and we'll put in like guy with the red hat on the corner of Second and Madison, and then try again. That's at least just for the street outreach team, and that's kind of what we've been told as through RTFH.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Once you stay, just in case, 'cause I have a feeling there's going to be more questions.
This actually isn't for you, but this might be more high level. I saw a news article circulating about the Supreme Court taking up the Boise decision, which the Boise decision ruling was through the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals that said that cities, municipalities cannot remove homeless encampments unless there is an open bed. And the Supreme Court recently said that they're going to rule on that decision, and I think the judgment is in June. And so I guess my question or direction would be, can we make sure we are abreast to any updates with that, so when there's a ruling that comes down, we're able to consume it and say, what does this mean for us moving forward, and kind of have some kind of decision or plan in place, whichever way it goes? Because if the Boise decision is not overruled, then we're going to have the existing scenario that we've had before, where people can deny services. They have a right to be on the street per the law, and it's very cumbersome for us to maintain the integrity of our neighborhoods. If it's overturned, that gives us some liberty to ensure the safety and integrity of our neighborhood. So that might be not Yanni, but maybe I'm looking over at our city manager and city attorney.
Just a clarification, it's not the Boise decision, Martin v. Boise, that's been granted review. It's the Grants Pass in Oregon case, which is more recent, which is similar to the Boise case. There are slight differences to that. As a matter of fact, you have somebody sitting here that is on our legal advocacy committee for the League of California Cities, and we, in that committee, are watching this decision, the review. I would imagine there will be some assistance coming from the League in the providing of amicus briefs to the Supreme Court and addressing certain issues with it. Obviously, those that are involved directly as parties will be handling the bulk of that kind of thing. But absolutely, I will continue to keep Mr. Mitchell, Mr. DiMaggio abreast of those things, and when it's appropriate to provide reports to you, I'd be happy to provide that as well.
Thank you.
Steve?
Hi. I'd like to know more about the motel program. So there were two of them. There was the motel stays program, and then the latest one is the scatter site motel program. Can you tell me the difference between those two?
So I wasn't at this agency when they first kicked off the first hotel program, but I believe it was in response to COVID-19, and a lot of just individuals who needed to isolate went into that motel program. The scattered site is an emergency shelter option that both Homestart and the El Cajon Police Department use to help individuals get off the streets who are willing to work towards a permanent housing plan.
And it seems like it's better if you can find them in a motel, but I'm looking at about $500,000 allocated, maybe 430,000 left, but 270 persons have been sheltered. Are you having any challenges with people at motels of any kind?
We do have challenges, and we do ask them to exit the program if they're not willing to participate in any case management or housing, or if they defy any of both the hotel rules or rules that we've come up through our agency that they must obey and follow.
It says the average stay is like a week, I think. Is that typical?
No, right now we are about 3 months. And that's because we've had matches through the coordinated entry system, and we're working on either appeals for them to get into permanent supportive housing or collecting all the documents needed. to get into either a rapid rehousing program or a permanent supportive housing program.
Would you say these are people who are more likely to get a step up into their housing situation then?
That are saying yes to getting off the streets. That's who we are trying to help in the scattered site.
Yeah, setting aside those that don't want to do
That's
anything
correct.
but just exit the program at some point. Interesting. Okay, thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I appreciate you answering all those questions.
You're welcome.
Okay, Angela, do we have any speaker cards for this item?
We have no cards for this, sir.
All right, then it's back to the City Council. I don't think we need to do anything other than receive the services report if somebody's willing to make a motion for that.
Mr. Mayor, also some just general direction if this is the right course you want us to continue to move forward. If there's any shifts in, that would be helpful to have that feedback, and then we can bring that back. But that would be part of today's deliberation.
Well, you know, I like Michelle, I'm disheartened by the number of people that are, you know, actually willing to go through the steps to get off the street permanently. And I don't know that there's anything we can do about that. I don't know if there's a program that you can implement that would be more effective than the one we're implementing right now. But, you know, I think it's important to acknowledge the fact that this homeless issue is not something that's easily fixed. And, you know, I think we're throwing a lot of things at it, and some are more successful than others. And I think we should be looking, and one of the things I didn't get, the city manager, was a good sense of what programs were more effective than others. So it'd be nice to have some kind of report on what's working and what's not. So maybe in the future we could expand programs that are working and the ones that are not.
We can do that, Mayor. I mean, one of the things is, if you look at the numbers, clearly the Way Back Home program is the most cost effective. However, not everyone can participate in the Way Back Home program because they're not from Mississippi, right? So, so sometimes it's all there are effective programs, but it's almost like you need the whole menu in order to feed everybody. And so even though maybe the salad is actually the cheapest thing on the plate, the meat is what's really going to help feed the people. So, I mean, so that's the pros and cons of that, like this cost-benefit analysis. But I think we can include that information in the next presentation.
No, and I get that. Obviously, there's going to be some niche kind of situations that have to be provided that will be different in their effectiveness. I just, you know, I think I'm, like most people, are just frustrated that we can't make more traction on this issue with the amount of money we're spending. But, hey.
No, I agree. Like you said, it's a complicated issue, and it took this community decades to get here, and it's going to take decades to completely solve it. And there's always going to be a homeless population no matter what. But my perspective is people have to be helped to be lifted out of their emotional poverty, their spiritual poverty, and their mental poverty before then they can pull themselves up out of their physical poverty. And that process is long. There's trauma, and there's financial literacy and depression and all these things that contributed to broken relationships, that contributed to getting them there. And that's a complicated issue. And if I like where our money is going, because a lot of the people that are denying services are not psychologically well. And as a small city, we don't have the funding to be able to fund mental health for all the people on the street. And so we're doing our best to offer services to the people that we have the budget for. But until there's some change, I don't think we're going to see a large dent in this, where funding is not being spent wisely in other programs and in other cities. And I think we're doing the best we can with the money that we have. And I say this every time, I put our experience as a council up against anybody's. Michelle and myself, we were homeless. At one point, Steve builds homeless shelters with his bare hands, with amicus. Gary rents his rooms out to formerly homeless people in his own home to help them transition. And Bill's worked with homeless individuals in a psychological mental health capacity for decades. So I'd put our experience against anybody in the state that we understand this and this issue, and we're going to keep looking at ways to maintain the integrity of our neighborhoods and help people on the street.
Michelle first.
I'd like to continue. My thoughts are that we continue with the funding that we have, but also continue to explore better methods. Councilmember Ortiz and I, last council, 2 weeks ago, helped an elderly man who was parked outside of the police station, charging up his scooter. Yeah, it's kind of like a wheelchair. He asked for help. So we got him placed at ECTLC because we have an agreement with them for emergency shelter. Now, he's been there 2 weeks. I have been making phone calls. I believe Home Start has been involved. Serenity Health has been involved. ECTLC is not the placement for this gentleman. Okay? He's 78, depending on when you talk to him. He says he's 80, but according to his birth date, he's 78. ECTLC is not the place for him. He's incontinent. He needs supplies. But where else are we going to send him? He came to us looking for help. Now, we could have easily just walked past him and say, okay, well, sounds like you're good. You're charging up, and we'll go on home to our house, because it was really cold. But we didn't. And I'm not sharing this story I don't need accolades or anything, but I'm sharing the story that this is a situation that Home Start and many other outreach providers do come across. This is a segment of our population who is we are seeing more and more becoming homeless. And so I think that if we continue with what we're doing, and we're continuing to improve our outreaches, improve how we are handling these special niches, whether it's families, whether it's seniors, children in our school district. We can't just say, let's just wash our hands. We can't do that, because it may be your mom or dad that for whatever reason, they're now on the street. It was heartbreaking to go and talk to this gentleman. And after a while, you're trying to get him help. But he was so frustrated. And that's, with all the questions. And that's what I find when I am dealing with residents, because I get phone calls all the time. Michelle, I need help. And so what I do most of the time is I just help them maneuver through the bureaucracies of the government systems. And so I think that we need to continue with what we're doing and keep looking forward and try and be more proactive versus reactive. And I know that takes money, and I know that takes effort, but I think that if we continue with what we're doing, we're never going to solve homelessness. But it's not a crime to be poor, and it's not a crime to be homeless. We just need to help get our neighborhoods back to being clean and safe, but we also need to help these people get up. If they're asking for help, we need to have services available. If they're not asking for help, then move on. But if these people are coming to us for help, then we need to have services available. That is what a society does. And if we say, well, just round them up and ship them out to the desert, that doesn't solve anything, because they're right here. Yes, he came because he saw our video. Are we going to have more? Possibly. But let's just take care of it, and let's worry about the logistics. All I wanted him for that night was to get into a bed, get a meal, because he had not eaten all day except for some protein bars, and he's diabetic, and get him a hot cup of coffee, because he had a very thin blanket. My sweater is probably about as heavy as his blanket. 78 years old, on the street, with just a blanket. Nobody should live that way. Nobody. And what, he's going to go get a job? So I'm not lecturing anyone, but I think that we need to be, as a council, we need to keep that in mind, that there are vulnerable people out there, and we need to continue with this. Thank you.
Well, I agree with the city manager's analysis. Essentially, one size doesn't fit all. There are people out there that are homeless for a bunch of different reasons. And if you've seen the video that the city made, there's a lot of them that are just fine. They don't want any help. They like the life that they live, but there's a lot of other ones. Almost every one is a unique case and what their problems are. So I think we need to continue the programs we have right now and get a little bit more feedback, because if you don't have the data, it's hard to manage something. And so there may be more efficient programs, move a dollar from one program that isn't working all that well to another program. But I think we don't want to scuttle anything right now until we get more information.
Councilwoman Mitchell mentioned people want clean and safe streets. I think if you ask people in El Cajon, what do they expect us to do? They expect us to try different solutions. They expect us to stay at it. They expect us to have a clean community, a safe community. So I think we do need to acknowledge the work of our police department and the special enforcement unit and the Public Works Department. According to the staff report, Public Works has picked up over 2 million pounds of debris, and our contractors over 1 million pounds of the debris in the past 5 years. That's a lot of stuff. So thank you to them. I think what would help in this report, Mr. City Manager, is to have cost per person. The right-hand column is 502 individuals contacted for outreach support. So 130,000 spent divided by 520 is what? And that helps put it in perspective and helps measure each against another. So the next time we have an update, that would be a great addition. I have heard of twice now that our police officers have gone to ECTLC and have been turned away, that they have to take somebody somewhere else. I think the people of El Cajon would say, why is ECTLC there to serve other cities if our police department is getting refused? That just doesn't make sense. So I would say that we need to ensure our partners at ECTLC are not turning away our very own before they serve other cities. As far as Care Court, I think it was supposed to be this great hope of solving a lot of things with the homelessness, but I think I read recently there's 70 applications countywide that have been turned in since last October. It's a voluntary program, so if the person does not want to participate, as impaired as they may be, they don't have to participate. And that's one of the challenges of Care Court, is it's just not a fix yet. I think we're doing a great mix, a great salad of solutions. Keep on doing it. That's what the people expect us to do. At the same time, they want clean streets. They want safe streets. And this is something that our police department and Public Works are still doing a great job at.
Okay, would somebody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we accept the staff report and the staff recommendations at the end of the report, numbers 1 through 7.
Second. Please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
Item 7 is a traffic calming request for Dorothy Street. I'll ask the staff to tell us about this.
All right, good afternoon, Mayor and council members. Mario Sanchez, City Engineer. The first item I'm going to talk about is a traffic calming request for Dorothy Street. And I'm going to split this discussion into two segments for Dorothy Street north of Washington and then Dorothy Street south of Washington. And the reason why, we've got requests on both sides. So going to the existing condition, can you go back to the vicinity map? Okay. The north side of Dorothy Street is a little over 1/4 of a mile between Hamishaw Road and Washington Avenue. And Bosworth Street has it's uncontrolled. And south of Washington Avenue, the residential street of Dorothy is about 1/2 mile long. And they both have a residential speed limit of 25 miles an hour. The traffic volume on Dorothy Street north of Washington is roughly about 850 vehicles per day, and that's roughly typical of a residential street. And then south of Washington, the volume bumps up to about 1,560 vehicles per day. And the most probable reason is south of Washington, Dorothy Street is used as a bypass to Hamishaw and Washington, as a bypass to get to Granite Hills. So. And we looked at the total accident history over the past 3 years, and there were 0, no accidents on this street. And we have a couple slides here showing Dorothy Street at Bosworth. Next slide, please. And then Dorothy Street south of Bosworth Street. Next slide. And this is another picture of Dorothy Street south of Washington. This one doesn't have a center line. So this is where the traffic volume is a little bit more increased than the north side of Washington. Next slide. And this is Dorothy Street, again, south of Granite Hills intersection. So as you transition up into the hill towards, it's called Shaughnessy Road. I put a table together just to show a little bit of context of the number of speeders, or the number of people traveling above 25 miles an hour. And if you go along the first row, that's Hamishaw Dorothy Street between Hamishaw and Washington. And we got average speed about 20 miles an hour. And then the 85th percentile speed is where we normally set our speed limits, is 24 miles an hour. So it's basically the majority of the traffic, 85% of the traffic, is traveling within the posted speed limit. And the last column is showing the number of vehicles traveling above 25 miles per hour. So as you can see on this, the last row, from Granite Hills to Shaughnessy Road, more people are speeding. As they travel up the hill, go down the hill, you're going to pick up speed. And then next slide, please. So we took a look at both segments and looked at the uncontrolled intersections and see what we could do to remedy some of the speeding that's occurring. So we came up with putting in an always stop at Bosworth, as well as putting in a feedback sign. And the feedback sign, we usually get better compliance. Studies done by FHWA have shown a small reduction of speeds with radar feedback signs from 2 to 7 miles an hour. And then next slide, please. Then we took a look at Dorothy south of Washington, and recommended to put in a feedback sign between Granite Hills and Washington, and an always stop at Saddleview Court as to capture some of the speeders that are going up and down that hill towards Shaughnessy Road. And then also the proposed recommendation is to install, next slide please, to install roadway striping to narrow the travel lanes. And it's a practice that we've done here for the past decade or so. And we've seen reductions of up to 5 miles per hour after we put in the narrow striping, center line and edge stripes. So this is another measure that we are recommending. Next slide, please. So with that, staff is recommending to establish permanent always stop signs on Dorothy Street, at Bosworth and Saddleview Court, install two speed radar feedback signs along Dorothy Street, one on the north side of Washington, one on the south side of Washington, and restripe the entire length of Dorothy Street to narrow the lanes to slow down traffic. And also, the last recommendation is that this project is exempt from CEQA guidelines, section 15301. It's just basically we're just modifying an existing facility that doesn't require CEQA studies. With that, I'm available to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mark. Any questions? Steve?
Any survey of residents to see what their feedback is?
There might be some speakers, residents here.
Okay. I'll wait for that.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, there might be some residents speaking on that
Thank
on
you.
behalf.
Any other questions for Mario?
No, just want to hear from the residents.
Okay, thanks. Thanks for coming.
You're welcome.
Speaker cards.
Yes, sir. We have one from Mr. Paul Garibay.
Hello, sir. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Mayor, council members. I think it's the right direction we're going on that street. I've been in contact with Phil Ortiz. I appreciate you. I understand you're not a representative of my district, but I definitely recommend that you keep on top of this also. I think another area that we can focus on is Washington. We just had a collision, 2 weeks ago? I don't know if you've got data on that one. So between first, the second damage. So that's another problem area. But I think we're in the right direction on Dorothy Street right now and the way it's going. So it is going to slow down the drivers. I think I called Mario one night. I think that thing toppled up at 52 miles an hour. Wow. So they put in that radar detector. So that's a step in the right direction, but we still need to look at that area continuously. But I do appreciate you, Phil, for accepting my phone calls, definitely after hours. I know you guys are busy, so let's keep up the good work, and I think we still need to continue to have more diligence on Washington. So I don't know if the motor pulls out. I never see them out there. I see the officers relaxing at the Elks Lodge. I know they're working. They got a lot on their hands, but we need to do a little bit more on Washington Street also. And that's all I have.
Well, thanks for taking the time to come out.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Mr. Paul, can you make sure you keep us posted on if it's solving the problem?
Oh, absolutely. I've been talking with all the neighbors. Obviously, they have, restraints from coming to the city council meetings. I know there's an autistic child on my street, so I'm kind of taking the lead and kind of being the advocate for my street. But it's definitely a concern. Just on my street alone, there's probably about 8 or 9 kids playing on the daily in the afternoon. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't want to be a vigilante, but sometimes when I see a car racing down that street, I will stand in front of the street and actually stand in the middle of it. If I get hit, I get hit. I understand, but it's a risk I'm willing to take. But it's an ongoing issue, and I thank Mario for receiving my phone calls. I know we were kicking the can down the road for the longest time, but it's 3 years in the making since I moved into that neighborhood. But I think it's a problem area that we need to look at a little bit more also. But
thank you.
As long as we can continue to move forward, I think we're going to go in the right direction. And but yeah, once again, Washington is our biggest problem.
Yeah.
That last crash that happened around 10 o'clock, they woke me out of bed because it was pretty loud.
Yeah.
So let's continue the good work, and me and you'll be talking.
Fantastic. Thank you,
I
sir.
appreciate what you guys do.
Any other questions for Mario? Hey, be ready to jump, okay?
Oh, absolutely.
That's not the traffic calming thing we're looking for, to stand in the middle of the road.
I mean, things need to be done, I understand, but at the same time, you have to be an advocate for your street, There's a reason why I purchased my home here in El Cajon. So I've become more of I shouldn't say it, but advocate for my street, and it seems to be working.
You're doing a good job.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else?
Mayor and Council, remember you had approved a pretty significant traffic reduction program for Washington Street. So that's still in the design phase, but that should have some significant impacts on that road.
Did you want to come back up?
Haven't seen the signs posted yet.
Come on up. We can't hear you until you get to the microphone.
They're still at 45. So I haven't seen any of the post signs yet set up at 40. So I know that motion was made, how many months ago? So that's going to be falling back on Public Works to get that work order expedited a little bit faster.
what the city manager is saying is that they're going to put a whole program together and then they'll implement it. And I'm sorry, it does take time sometime, but we'll get there.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Another question for Mario.
Oh, yes. Mario, could you come back up, please?
So on the stretch that's from Granite Hills to Shaughnessy that had an 85 percentile of 34, because you're now putting a stop sign in and breaking that up, does it no longer make it a 25-mile-an-hour local road? Do you have to increase the speed limit, or can you stay at 25?
Per the definition of the California Vehicle Code, it's a residential street because it's less, the segment is less than 1/2 mile, and it's no greater than 40 feet wide. So by all classifications by the Vehicle Code, it's as a residential street. So we don't need to legally post a speed limit.
Okay.
It's called a prima facie, a face value speed limit.
Yes, thank you. Anybody else for Mario? All right, thank you, Mario. I appreciate it. All right, Angela, do we have any speaker cards for this?
No other speaker cards.
No more. Okay, so it's back with City Council, a discussion or a motion?
I'll make the motion to adopt the resolution recommended in the staff report, points 1 through 5.
All right, moved and seconded, please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
Item 8 is a traffic calming request for Bostonia Street, and I'll ask staff to tell us about this. Mario, you're back.
Yeah, good afternoon again. Okay, let's see. Okay, this request is similar to Dorothy Street, but this is Bostonia Street. It's about approximately 1/2 mile long, and it's on the northern side of the city between Greenfield and Broadway. So it's used as a bypass for 2nd Street to the west, and I think 3rd Street to the east. And roughly, when we did our study, we measured there was about 750 vehicles per day, and our collision history for the past 3 years revealed there was one accident at the intersection of Greenfield and Bostonia. I think it was a bicycle rider, but on mid-block there have been no collisions for the past 3-year period. Next slide, please. I just want to show a couple of photos of Bostonia at Coker Way. It's uncontrolled and just a wide open street. There's no striping, so people can really pick up speed if they want to go from north to south. The next slide shows same street south of Greenfield Drive. Next slide, please. And then this is viewing west on Coker Way at Bostonia. Next slide. So we took a look at the request came in to look at the whole neighborhood. So we set our traffic counters on Bostonia, Bluebell Way, Coker Way, and Tangerine Way. The 3 lower streets on that table are pretty indicative of a residential zone, very low volume, but Bostonia carries the bulk of the volume, and a little over 50% are traveling in excess of 25 miles an hour. But the 85th percentile speed, if we were to set the speed limit, we would set it at 25. And there was one collision, as I mentioned, right at Greenfield and Bostonia Street. Next slide. So when we looked at the whole neighborhood, there's several uncontrolled intersections, and so just to assign the right-of-way, we're going to install some stop signs on the minor street as you face the major street, just to remind drivers of who has the right-of-way, as well as Coker Way. We're going to recommend to install an all-way stop or a 3-way stop at that T intersection. And then again, as I mentioned in the last report, install 2 new radar feedback signs to remind drivers of the 25-mile-per-hour zone. And with these signs, it gives drivers instant feedback that they're going in excess of 25 miles an hour. And then I'm not showing it on this graphic, but also traffic calming striping, center line with shoulder stripes as well. And next one. Again, I'm showing another slide where this is Windmill View, where we've successfully put in traffic calming striping to slower the speeds there. So staff is recommending to establish permanent all-way stop signs at Coker Way and Bostonia, and then two-way stop signs at Blue Way at Bostonia, Novello at Bluebell, and Bluebell at Tangerine Street, and Tangerine at Coker Way, and install 2 radar feedback signs on Bostonia, as well as the roadway striping. And then, again, this is exempt from CEQA guidelines. So with that, that's my report.
Thank you. Council, any questions? Let's start with Michelle.
Hi, Mario.
Hi.
Can you go back to the map, please?
Yes.
Yeah. So I know that area. My daughter used to live on Novello Terrace across the street, and I've gone to several places right there off Bostonia and Bluebell, and are we putting stop signs actually on Bostonia, or just at the feeder streets going to Bostonia?
So if you look at my report, on Coker Way, there's going to be stop signs on Bostonia, a throughway stop.
Okay, so you will be stopping the traffic actually on
Bostonia.
On Bostonia. Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I needed to. I wasn't sure on that because I do know that is a throughway. I don't use it as a throughway, but I know that when I've picked up something on Bostonia, then I can just continue onto the next onto what is it, Broadway.
Mm-hmm.
So okay, I just needed clarification on that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bill?
Thanks, Mario. Just to clarify, I don't know if this is a stupid question, but when you say no accidents, is that no accidents that were reported?
That were reported, correct. So
Okay.
we do a 3-year accident collision history from our records. I didn't see any.
Okay.
Just one at the intersection.
So there could have been accidents, but just not reported to
Correct.
PD or something like that.
Correct.
Okay. I think it's important to make that distinction because there's times where the public will say, "No, someone hit me on my street last year," and they say, "Oh, well, it wasn't reported." So I think it's important to make that distinction that we know that it's just what was reported and what wasn't reported. So that's super helpful. Thank you.
Anybody else? Thanks, Mario. Appreciate it. Angela, do we have any speaker cards for this?
Yes, sir. We have 2 speaker cards, and in addition, one of the speakers delivered a letter from Ms. Marlene Young in support of the request. The first speaker is Frank Kalinowski.
Hi, Mr. Kalinowski. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Frank Kalinowski. I live on the corner of Bluebell and Tangerine. I appreciate the efforts of the city engineer to address the excessive traffic speeds on Bostonia, but I do not agree with the second recommendations he put out with the additional stop signs on the streets of Novello, Tangerine, and Coker. His own data show that no one's speeding there, and they're low traffic. In his own write-up, most drivers are traveling within the residential speed limits except on Bostonia where vehicles exceed the speed limit. It's in his report. So I think installing these additional 2-way stop signs on otherwise quiet, uncontrolled intersections is just overkill. They will likely be not appreciated, will likely be ignored, and only add to your costs. The problem is Bostonia, as Michelle pointed out. And we need to keep focus on the problem. Bostonia. The little streets around it, they're just fine. Thank you.
Any questions? Go ahead.
Other than the cost, just curious why you would be adverse to having the stop signs up.
They're not needed. And if you stand on any street corner in El Cajon by a stop sign, nobody 99% of the people do not come to a full, complete stop. California Vehicle Code, right? They just roll through. And they're just going to roll through, right? You might put a yield sign, maybe. That might be better. But they're just going to ignore it because it's going to be a nuisance.
Okay.
You know.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? No? Okay. Are there any other speaker cards?
The second speaker is Vicky Kalinowski.
Ms. Kalinowski, welcome.
Hello, Mayor and council people. I'm Vicky Kalinowski. I live on Bluebell and Tangerine, and due to many mishaps that have occurred to me, I've almost have been T-boned several times because of the visibility, poor visibility, and high speed on Bostonia. Results is from my house to my destination is 0.8 of a mile, but because of the last time that I was almost hit and it was close, the truck was closer to me than that wall is, and I swerved onto around Bostonia so I could avert an accident. Since then, I go down Tangerine to Greenfield and go through the school zone there, go to 3rd Street, go down to Broadway, and go through another school zone and stop lights. And then I go on to my destination where I need to go every morning. So I'm asking that that there be a stop sign on either Coker Way or Bluebell where people have to stop so we can turn onto Bostonia safely, and speed limit signs of 25 miles an hour at the beginning of Bostonia and the beginning of Greenfield. Okay. We do have a 25-mile-an-hour sign on Bostonia and Bluebell, but no one sees it. They're driving too fast to see that sign. And my life is important, as well as the other residents. My neighbors have also expressed similar concerns that has happened to them too, that being nearly T-boned there at Bostonia and Bostonia and Bluebell, or Bostonia and Coker Way. That's all. And thank you. I want to thank Mr. Sanchez for listening and for the council people listening, and I appreciate.
Just a quick question. So the city is recommending that we have a stop sign at Bostonia and Coker, Bluebell and Bostonia, Novello at Bluebell Way, and Bluebell at Tangerine Street, and Tangerine Street at Coker Way. Are you good with all those stop signs?
That is true because I've lived there for so many years. Sometimes there are many cars that do drive fast on Tangerine, and but not as many as you would need a stop sign there. But there are children that are, and special needs children on Tangerine, and that would be helpful. I don't like to go down Tangerine to Coker because I almost have gotten hit head on because people
drive too fast.
are driving too fast on Coker and making a short turn there onto Tangerine. And Mrs. Young also expressed to me that that has happened to her too.
Okay. Let me see if there's any other questions for you. Anybody else?
My only question would be maybe Mario. She's requesting 25 mile per hour speed limit signs somewhere on Bostonia. And I'm seeing speed limit signs on this graphic. Is there sufficient signage on Bostonia for the speed limit?
No.
Okay. It doesn't look like this is being addressed in the staff report.
We'll get Mario back up after this.
Okay, great.
So, all right, ma'am. Thanks so much for coming. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Mario, could you come back up?
Yeah, I believe there's one that we put in. No, actually two on Bostonia that we put in. But the location probably near the rec center might be obscured by trees, but we can double check. So,
I mean, I don't see it being a big deal to either put one up or move it, right?
No, not at all.
Okay.
No. So the radar feedback signs will have it a speed limit sign above it, and then your speed below it.
Let's just review that and make sure that
Sure.
there's good signage on going both directions between Greenfield and Broadway.
Thanks, Mario. So no more speaker cards, right?
No more speaker cards, sir.
All right, so the council, I leave it to you.
Mario, if you could come back up. Sorry, I'm reading the charts in the staff report from Field Data Service of Arizona, where they read the stuff. Okay, so on Tangerine, they show 95th percentile at 29%, 95%. Pick any one of the tangerines.
Yeah, the 95th percentile.
95th percentile,
Yeah.
27 to 29 miles per hour, because there's 3 reports, so I don't know.
Yeah, we look at the 85th percentile.
I know. I'm going further than that.
And
saying 95% of the people drive between 27 and 29 miles per hour.
Correct.
I'm not seeing that as excessive so far. On Coker, if we could bring that map back up. On Coker, the 95th percentile is 28 miles an hour. I'm not seeing that as excessive. On Bluebell, the speeds are 23 to 24 miles an hour at the 95th percentile. I'm not seeing that as excessive. On Bostonia, the 95th percentile is 35, 36, and 37 miles per hour. I see that as excessive. I tend to agree with the resident who says really the need is for the stop sign at Bluebell and Bostonia and Coker and Bostonia, and to leave Novello and Bluebell off, Tangerine and Bluebell off, and Tangerine and Coker off, because I'm not seeing excessive speeds on those things. What's your feedback?
My feedback, we did take a look at both intersections, and to have 2 successive all-way stops, the compliance of people stopping is much less. If you do 2, people are going to have to start up, accelerate, then stop again, start up, accelerate, and stop again. You might have more violators of people running stop signs versus just using one location. And then I looked at Coker Way as the higher volume coming off of Bostonia, and that's where I made my judgment, my engineering judgment there to put a stop sign there, which kind of bisects the whole length of the street. But putting 2 successive all-way stops, you're probably, you're going to have a high risk of violators, of people just blowing through the stop sign.
Oh, so you're saying not put one at Bluebell and Bostonia?
Yeah, on Bostonia itself. So what I recommend is to put a stop sign on Bluebell, a 2-way stop on Bluebell, and have Bostonia free. And as you approach Coker, a stop sign on Bostonia.
That's an all-way stop.
All-way stop, or 3-way stop.
But at Bluebell,
it's a 2-way stop.
Bostonia goes through.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I tend to agree with the resident to say I think the other ones aren't justified by a 23, 24, 27, 28 mile an hour. And I don't like to put them in if they're not compelling.
Looking at the whole neighborhood, when I see uncontrolled intersections, I try for safety and just assigning right-of-way to drivers to stop on the minor street and let the major street go through. So what Ms. Kalinowski was saying, that people are traveling east on Coker and they're cutting through and making a tight turn onto Tangerine. But if there was a vehicle stopped there, they would think twice about cutting that intersection.
I agree with you. The speeds don't seem to show that it's a problem from my point of view. And if it was fast, I totally agree on Bostonia. I've been down there. You saw a photo in your presentation of cars parked along the street, making visibility very tough. And if somebody wants to get out of their driveway or pull out of the Bostonia Park or something, no doubt somebody going 35, 36, 37 miles an hour, that's a dangerous situation. So I agree with you there. I just have an opinion it's overreach on the other spots.
Oh, any other questions, Mario? Okay, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. All right, back with City Council for discussion.
Another question maybe for Mario, sorry. Is there, now that we've done the traffic study, I don't know what the legality is for not going with the recommend. Is there some kind of legal exposure for going through it and not putting a stop sign there?
Not regularly. As Mr. Sanchez said, the prima facie speed for residential street, and these are all residential streets, is 25 miles an hour. And so the effort is to try to control traffic to fit within that prima facie speed. Using the radar type of enforcement would not be acceptable if it doesn't meet the, whatever it is, the 75th percent, I can't remember, 85 percentile. So that's why you look at percentiles, is for enforcement using radar. It's not intended, I suppose, to use radar in these intersections or on these streets. So.
Okay.
Any other comments? Mario, I think you're done. I'll let you know.
Okay.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Any other thoughts? Look, I understand what Steve's saying, and I don't like government overreach either, but I'm nervous about second-guessing a traffic engineer. So I'd have to, my vote would be to vote for what the recommendation is. But anybody else?
Yeah, Bill, I share your concern. Like I've told my friends, I don't do my own dental work and I don't do my own engineering work. That's not my area of expertise. So Mario's testimony carries great weight with me. So I'll be voting for the staff recommendation.
Well, anybody has anything to say, why don't you make the motion and we'll see how it plays out.
I'll make a motion that we approve the staff recommendation.
Second. Okay, move in second, please vote.
Motion carries by a 4-1 vote, with Councilmember Goebel voting no.
All right, we have two more administrative items to consider. Item 9 is for the Homeless Court Program, Clean Plates MOU. I'll ask the city manager to tell us all about this.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. This agenda item is to consider a memorandum of understanding, or an MOU, between the City of El Cajon, the County Public Defender's Office, and the Homeless Court Steering Committee. If the city were to enter into this MOU, the city would be the 4th city in this county to participate in the Homeless Court or Clean Plates program. What the Clean Plates program allows the city to do is, frankly, just to waive parking citations issued to those that are experiencing homelessness. Under the program, the city would have full discretion of whether it wishes to fully waive the citation, to not waive the citation, or partially waive the citation. But it also requires the participants in the program to meet several minimum qualifications or criteria, which are identified in the staff report and also in the MOU. I'll just share 3 of those. One is they can't have participated in the program before, so you can't be a habitual receiver of citations and expect to have these waived every time. You get one chance to have a citation waived. Second, the individual must be enrolled in a homeless program with a pre-approved list of homeless service providers. Homestart is not currently on that list, but we're working with them to get them back on the list. They were on it years ago, but since we haven't offered this program, there was no need for them to be on it, but we're working with them to have them on that again. And then the other is that the individual must have substantially or completed or substantially completed an addiction recovery or a alcohol or drug recovery program, if it's applicable. So what this program does is it really helps alleviate the financial burden for those that are experiencing homelessness that have this citation sort of on their shoulders, but it also gives the city some leverage to encourage those that are experiencing homelessness to seek some assistance in exchange for eliminating that obligation or that financial obligation. In talking to the other cities that have experienced this, there's not a lot of activity with this. We don't issue a lot of citations to homeless individuals in their cars. So we don't see this being as being a heavy burden on the city. We don't get a lot of revenue from parking citations also. And so, but it's just, again, one more arrow in our arsenal. So with that, staff would recommend that the City Council approve the MOU, and we're here to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Graham. Are there any speaker cards on this item?
No speaker cards for this, sir.
I forgot to ask. Did anybody have any questions of Graham? Okay. Well, I'll leave it back to City Council then.
I'll make a motion to adopt the staff recommendation for the homeless court clean plates MOU.
Second.
Please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
The last administrative item, item 10, is regarding the El Cajon on-demand flexible fleet clean mobility options. I'll ask staff to tell us about this.
Right, good afternoon again, Mayor and Council. Mario Sanchez, a city engineer. This presentation is called, if you go back to the first slide, I just want to go over the title. It's called the El Cajon On-Demand Flexible Fleet Clean Mobilities Option Grant Project. It's a long statement. Next slide. The Clean Mobilities Voucher Pilot Program is a statewide public program that empowers under-resourced communities to better understand and overcome mobility obstacles with vouchers or funds for zero-emission transportation projects. CMO is funded by the California Climate Investments. It's a statewide initiative using cap-and-trade funds to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, strengthen the economy, improve public health and the environment. Next slide. And SANDAG, as you're aware, in 2021 adopted the Regional Transportation Plan, and they adopted a flexible fleets strategic plan to make the region more accessible, equitable, and environmentally friendly to the region. They established cooperative agreements with different service providers to design, deploy, operate, and monitor on-demand flexible fleets and allow local agencies to piggyback on these agreements. We are intending to piggyback with Nomad Transit, doing business as Via Transportation. I'll use their names interchangeably. Slide 4, please. So back in March of 2023, the city collaborated with Nomad Transit and submitted a grant application for $1.5 million to fund a microtransit project in the city. We got word in October 2023 that we were awarded a grant to implement this specific project. Next slide. I'm putting up a slide here to talk about VIA. The program they provide is rider booking tools, a cell phone app, and they plan routes for people as well. So and they operate independently. It's kind of a turnkey operation, and they've done this throughout the United States and abroad. So next slide, please. I'm going to show, go back, and this is a short video. And if you can play the short video.
Is this public transportation? Absolutely. It is the future of public transportation.
Transit agencies and municipal governments in Valdosta, Georgia, are using on-demand public transit to improve the customer experience and improving service with app-driven customer feedback.
The opportunity here is absolutely giant for on-demand to feed into these really critical first and last mile journeys that can really make or break the total journey for a commuter.
My family and I, we use this service all the time. I just take my phone out, book the ride, and on-demand is there.
We were able to reduce our costs by at least a third. It's just a more efficient model than having a shuttle, burning gas, driving around in a circle.
They are greatly reducing the number of single-person vehicles on the road. It has been the most successful emissions reduction project in all of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex.
On-demand service just changes people's lives. I hope it's the future of paratransit, honestly. It's hard to have an equal social opportunity when you don't have on-demand transportation.
I use Via because I'm a half blind and I cannot drive. I order the Via, so Via pick up in front of my door and drop off where I'm supposed to go.
It was really important to have our daughter experience life as the 19-year-old she is. Via really gives her that independence.
And our seniors are just loving it. It allows them to be safer, to be able to go wherever they want to go. It allows them to be productive way beyond the years that they're able to drive.
Remix enables transit planners and transit agencies to draw ideas on a map about the transit system and show the instant impacts of changing the route.
A lot of people are able to access hospitals, jobs. Numerous of people have gained employment, having access just to get to the job.
With VIA, I think we've certainly got the best technology that the world has to offer in this space.
Okay, next slide. So when we developed the grant application, we worked with Nomad Transit to develop the service area. And the service area is shown in blue there. And they're overlapping the MTS fixed route bus routes and also the trolley. So the intent of the service is to serve our underserved environmental justice communities and to get them to the last mile to transit, to make it to their jobs and so forth. So the target population in the staff report is 71,000. So I have it here as 69,000, so roughly 70,000. And then there's about 19,000 jobs in the area. And we estimated about 200 riders per day with 52,000, hopefully, annual ridership. The fleet size is going to be 3 electric vehicles. 1 will be wheelchair accessible. And our annual cost for the grant for the first 2 years is $750 per year for a total of $1.5 million. So next slide, please. And this is a pricing spreadsheet for year 1 and year 2 for the transit provider. So there's some fixed upfront cost at the beginning, but it roughly comes down to about $104 fully loaded cost per vehicle hour. And we intend to run the service Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., just during the week. Next slide. So our schedule, project schedule, cost and sustainability. The grant will fund via transportation for the first 2 years of operation. Riders will use the service free for the first 30 days of the program. After that, we'll be charged at a fare, $250 per rider, which is the same for an MTS bus ride. In year 3, we hopefully fare revenues and other transit-related funding will be used to sustain the program. In addition, staff will pursue other grant opportunities for it. It's a 4-year program, and we intend to deploy 3 electric-powered vehicles, as I mentioned. Hopefully get this service up by summer of this year. So with that, next slide. Well, we're recommending that this authorize the city manager to execute the CMO pilot program agreement with the state and accept, appropriate, expend $1.5 million from the state funding CMO grant. And then after this is successful, then we'll enter an agreement with via transportation to get the project going. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions.
Okay, thanks. Let me see. Questions? Michelle, go ahead.
Okay. Can you go back to the map
Yes.
of the city? Okay, so these vans will only be available where the blue shaded area is?
That's their primary focus area, but they can drive within the city limits.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we can go up to my little finger up there at the top.
Sure, sure. Yeah.
Okay, I just have to say I think this is a wonderful idea. Years ago, for long-term residents that have been here, if you remember, we used to have that agreement with Yellow Cab, and I think it was like 50 cents a ticket. And as a single mom and having to go get groceries, I didn't want to carry all those groceries home. So it was great to be dropped off or at least walk to the store and then pick up my groceries and get that cab home. And yeah, it took me a little while to get home because you had to share the ride, but it was helpful. And we have a lot of seniors who live in what I call food deserts. The northern end of 2nd Street before it turns into Winter Gardens, that's still El Cajon City. There's really no grocery stores. I mean, a full-on grocery store. The nearest one would be the Walmart neighborhood market. And so this is going to give options to a lot of our residents who have to carry their groceries home, have to walk to do, various tasks, groceries especially, and I think this is a wonderful idea. I appreciate your report, and I'm excited to see this coming in, and hopefully we can get an education blurb out video, get Chris involved in this again. He does a wonderful job with them to let the residents know. Because riding the bus is great, but like for my neighborhood, it would take a really long time to get to the grocery store because I live Mollison and Bradley area. And so, yes, there's a bus on Bradley, but I don't think it really gets to where I needed to go. So if I couldn't drive, or some of my neighbors who are elderly, and they're getting close to not being able to drive anymore, this is an option available. So thank you very much for bringing that to us.
You're welcome.
Bill?
So the grant of 1.5 will fund the program totally for free, or are we're going to start charging?
No, it's free, but we'll be collecting fares after the first 30 days.
And those fares go to us?
Come to the city, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
But, and the cost of this, do we own the vehicles, or does the company?
No, they lease their own vehicles.
They lease their own vehicles.
Yeah,
okay, and the drivers are our employees?
No.
Or their employees?
Okay,
so they just have a program that they can just drop right here as long as we have the funding for it?
Yes.
Got it, okay. And it seems like our estimated ridership plus the $2.50 after the 1.5 million runs out, there's going to be a gap in funding, it seems like.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And we're looking for maybe existing grants, so the city isn't coming out of pocket for that, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Great program. This is a super program. This is something I talk about at the MTS. We need a first mile, last mile solution because that's the hardest part is getting to the trolley or from the trolley. 3 questions. What are the operating hours?
Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Yeah, that's the intent.
And does the app kind of say 35 minutes from your door to where you want to go?
Yes, it would be kind of like an Uber type of app that they use, yes.
So before you commit to it, you can say, oh, it looks like I'm going to take 25 minutes to get there. That's great. The fares, are they collected up front when the person books the ride, or is it up to the driver to enforce the fare?
That I'm not 100% sure how they collect fares. It might be through a credit card on the app, but that hasn't been vetted out yet.
Yeah. My suggestion would be to, like Uber and Lyft, commit to pay before you step on the bus. That way the driver never has to worry about fare enforcement.
Correct. Okay.
Great presentation. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I mean, that's the problem for a lot of people to get down to the trolley. So if they have a way to do it that's inexpensive, I think it's a win-win all the way around.
Yeah, I like the idea of it being provided, the funding being provided for. And so I think for it to be successful after that 2 years, we're going to heavily rely on the marketing. So there's an increase in ridership. Maybe that 200 per day can double, and that gap in funding become less and less.
Of course.
So I think that's going to determine the success of the program after the 2 years. So the city's not funding a big gap, and if there's no ridership, then it's not going to be helpful. But it's a grant. It's going to provide a service, a needed service. So, yeah, seems like a good idea.
Okay. Thanks, Mario.
You're welcome.
Any speaker cards?
No speaker card, sir.
All right, back to City Council for discussion or a motion. Seems like everybody likes it.
I'll move that the City Council adopts the staff recommendation as shown in the agenda report.
Second. Please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
All right. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. We need to take a quick break. We'll be back in a few minutes. Sorry. Back. There are no commission reports on today's agenda. Item 11 is my activities report, which is as reported. Item 12 is a recommendation for City Council assignments. And I'm open for discussion, but I'm kind of feeling like everybody's kind of entrenched in their assignments and they're doing well and they're making good progress. And unless anybody has an objection or would want an additional assignment or to be relieved of an assignment, now's the time to let me. But I'll be saying no about the relieving part. But if you want additional work, please raise your hand. No, then do we need to ask for activity or for speaker cards on that item?
No speaker card, sir.
Okay, so then I'll make a motion to keep assignments as they are. Please vote.
With your permission, I'll reset the vote.
Yeah. All right, please vote.
Yes. Motion carries by unanimous vote.
All right. Now, activity reports for council members. Mr. Kendrick.
As reported.
Mr. Goebel. As reported. Mr. Ortiz.
As reported.
Ms. Mitchell.
As reported.
There are no joint council member reports, no general information items, and no first readings of ordinance on today's agenda. We have a second reading and adoption of an ordinance on today's agenda. Item 17 is an amendment to Chapter 10.20 regarding the salaries of council members and the mayor. I will ask the city clerk to read the title, but first, Angela, are there any speaker cards on this item?
No speaker card, sir. And the title reads, An Ordinance Repealing Section 2.16.020 of Chapter 2.16 and adding a new section 2.16.020 of Chapter 2.16 of the El Cajon Municipal Code, adjusting salaries of council members and mayor effective January 1, 2025.
I'll make a motion to approve. Please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
We're now at closed session. I will ask our city attorney to recite the titles and lead us into the closed session.
Thank you, Mayor. The City Council is going to meet in closed session on three items. Item 18, is a closed session for conference with legal counsel on existing litigation pursuant to paragraph 1 of subdivision D of Government Code section 54956.9. It is a workers' comp case involving Brandon Fairley versus the City of El Cajon. Item 19 is a closed session for conference with real property negotiators pursuant to Government Code section 54956.8. The property is 405 East Lexington Avenue. The negotiating party is I'm going to do this again, I'm going to try, Centro de Salud de la Comunidad de San Isidro, Inc., as the seller, and the buyer is the city. City's negotiators are the city manager, assistant city manager, and city attorney, and under negotiation would be price and terms for payment or for acquisition. Item 20 is for the same property under 54956.8. To give direction to real property negotiators involving the same property but with the San Diego Chaldean Community Council as a possible tenant if the city obviously approves the acquisition under 19. Under negotiation would be the price and terms for payment of the lease of the property. Now, Mayor Wells has an announcement he must make and will be disqualified from items 19 and 20.
Yeah, due to a personal business relationship I have with San Isidro Health, I will not be able to participate in the contract negotiations for the property.
Thank you.
All right, I'd like to make a motion then to adjourn to closed session. Please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back quickly to finish the meeting. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back from closed session. I'll ask our attorney to tell us what happened in closed session.
Thank you, Mayor. On item 18, it was a conference with legal counsel for existing litigation. The City Council approved a tentative settlement agreement conditioned upon approval of the settlement documents by both parties. On item 19, with a conference with the real property negotiators for the acquisition of the building at property at 405 East Lexington Avenue, the council gave the negotiators direction to allow the close of escrow under the existing agreement. And item 20, a closed session for negotiations of a lease with the identified party, the San Diego Chaldean Community Council. Following close of escrow, direction was given to the city manager.
Thank you. This brings us then to the adjournment, the regular joint meeting of the El Cajon City Council, El Cajon Housing Authority successor agency to the El Cajon Redevelopment Agency, held this 9th day of January 2024, is adjourned till Tuesday, January 23rd, 2024 at 3 o'clock p.m. Thank you.